What is failure, and why do things fail? Let's take a look at this manga that couldn't make it to Jumps line up past 17 chapters. This is The Failure of Psych by Omozuki Kobayashi. First, I need to explain what makes a good comic in the first place, and what sequential storytelling is. In the words of famed Will Eisner, a story is the narration of the sequence of events deliberately arranged for telling. Kind of like reporting an event, except the teller controls the events. Every story has structure to guide it. Everything needs a narrative, to help get its events going. The issue with Psych is it lacks a narrative in most chapters, and it's mostly filler. The story is constantly stuck in its introduction phase of showing the premise but never adds conflict to the story. There is nothing going on for the readers to get hooked on. For example, in this chapter, the main character uses his ability called psych to make plants grow. And that's it. The chapter does not do anything with the idea. He's making plants grow, but that doesn't create any conflict. In fact, when given the chance to do something by having a supersized bee, the conflict self-resolves in a single panel. I normally would begin a video by introducing the power system or the world building, but I feel like showing just how little happens in a given chapter helps you understand the fundamental issues with the story. It's so boring! Every chapter feels like generic filler. We have the dress-up shopping chapter, the gift-buying chapter, the stuck-in-the-rain-play-it-side chapter, the two friends that think the main characters are on a date, but they also think they're not dating chapter. At some point, I was getting Season 2 of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's flashback to just how pointless these chapters felt. There is never a real conflict to any of these chapters that need to actually get solved, nor does anything happen that needs you to pay attention to its plot. It just stays like this till chapter 14, when there is finally an actual conflict and drama to the narrative that needs to get solved, but by then it was too late and the series was slated to get cancelled. But to go over the issues further, I now need to go over the world building and the plot of the story to make the issues more clear. So the main character is this girl who has the power to teleport things, and this guy who can grow and shrink things. They live in this house called the Psych House, and the girl is in a bad situation because her mom's in a coma from unknown reasons, making her steal things with her powers to feed herself, and the kid offers to help her by looking for a psych user that could wake her up. In this house, the other psych users have simple surface level personalities, which each of them having their own introduction chapter to themselves. Can you see the issues of having a boring character having an entire chapter to each of them? So one of them is a drunk, and the entire chapter is just, I am drunk and I like drinking. She has a mind reading power, but it's really underwhelming in this chapter. She says things that would be more interesting to explore, like her cheating and gambling using her mind reading to rig games and get money, but she's just sitting down, talking, and honestly the whole plot is forgettable. There are other chapters, but they're not better by very much. In fact, I would say they're just as bad as the rest of them. So this kid has the power to multiply herself, and she uses it to play tag with the main characters by stealing their useless shit. And the entire chapter is no stakes or real weight, as none of this means anything. Then we have a raccoon dog that can talk, and he's looking for his owner he ran away from, only to learn she died, and then he moved on instantly and moved in with the main characters, all within the span of 5 minutes. I think anyone who's ever watched a kids cartoon will notice how repetitive and boring these plots are, and just how overdone they are in terms of the narrative being told here. It feels more like stalling, given even the first chapter established a motive and direction for the story, but it opts to never move forward with it, meaning all these chapters just feel pointless. We think that the story's plot is about her trying to wake up her mom, and every chapter she would be looking for her, looking for this person that would be able to cure her mom. But instead, that just doesn't happen. In fact, they're never looking for clues or searching for any of them. Instead, it just leaves the plot feeling empty and pointless till it finally is slated to get cancelled and they finally have to wrap up the plot. For those wondering why I reference chapter 14 is when the filler ends, is because chapter 14 is when there's an actual villain in the plot and there's an actual conflict and the characters have to work on solving the chapter with an actual conclusion to its story. That and it references past continuity, create a moral conflict with the site user calling out that they have no right to judge him because the temptation to use their powers for their own benefit, and with the female lead having to reference her own actions in stealing for herself to feed herself while her mom's in the coma. It's very clunky. It's not really handled very well, but in terms of quality, it's not the worst thing. Like, compared to, like, the other chapters, I can at least say it was, like, entertaining. But it does do better in terms of, like, I guess, getting you invested in the story. But too little too late. Because, like, in the next chapter, guess what? Her mom is waking up. How is she waking up? The drunk girl that was introduced in chapter 3 just happens to be able to wake her up. Meaning everything that went after chapter 3 was all pointless filler. Man. I could say that, like, the ending was bad, but honestly, it at least feels like it was a satisfying conclusion. Like, at least it, like, ended and wrapped up the story for, like, the surface level characters with, like, at least a surface level ending. Definitely better than, like, My Hero Academia and Red Riding Hood. I don't know what those two were trying to cook. But in terms of writing, this manga suffers from a lack of narrative momentum, leading the readers to losing any interest in the story and getting bored with it. Some might be saying, but slice of life is valid. When a story introduces a conflict but does not address it for chapters on end in any way, and the conflict is extremely defining for a character, that ends up feeling like the main goal of the story. But when that main goal is ignored and the story feels meandering to the point readers would drop it, that's a problem. They should have had most of the chapters done from the frame of looking for a psych user with the power to wake up her mom, with conflict coming from it, which could help make the premise work a lot better. Now, for the elephant in the room, some of you might have noticed already, the manga art is not good. The artwork of the manga can often look inconsistent with shifting proportions, weird anatomy, and broken body parts. The main character himself looks like he shifts from being drawn like he's 7 years old to being sized like a teenager. Still weird looking even then. And then the main female character is drawn with abnormal form as well, with her legs being most noticeable as like the point of inconsistency. So yeah, the artwork is not the best. That feels like the artist is always missing at least one panel to convey something to the audience. Her teleporting looks more like her throwing things a lot of the time, and like, it's not really conveyed very well. It needed like Goku instant transmission effect to really like sell that, oh, this is like being teleported. Because like the way it's conveyed, it's just looks more like she's just throwing things at somebody. And then like, in this other fight, even though the guy's supposed to have a knife, it's so under-implied and so underimposed, I didn't notice he even had one until, like, the dialogue itself mentioned it. But despite these issues the artist needs to work on, I could say that the artwork at least tried to be visually creative. Stuff like him riding a cat or using his helmet as a cage is something I like to see in media with powers, with them being used in interesting, unique ways, which already makes this story vastly more visually interesting than Astro Royale, because at least it's not just super strength over and over. Honestly, I can see the hearts, alright? I can see the artists did try hard to make their story work, but they did not have the experience to make their ideas function. They were trying their best, and they just could not. They definitely needed, like, editorial revision and, like, actual, like, oversight to help them, like, get their ideas off the ground. Because, like, his artwork is not the best, but at least I can say he can only get better from here because he's not an industry vet. He's just as new as, like, most other artists getting to the industry. It's not a case where, like, the artwork started out as actually good, but then it gradually became so unimaginably bad that it looks like most of the characters are in a state of melting. But, like, that aside, if I were to, like, summarize this, I think more so you should just focus on, like, seeing it as a, I guess, learning experience. I would recommend if you have your own story to try to keep track of your own narrative momentum and plotting, since that's the most important part of writing, since even ideas that could have worked could easily end up forgotten and lost. Final rating, 6 out of 10. Have a nice day. Like and subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more of my takes. Ciao. But if you want an example of just how boring this manga can get, let me read you, alright? Just raw read you the dialogue, okay? Like, I'm not even gonna play any visuals here. Like, this is just a bonus. Like, the video's already over. I'm just, like, asking, do you want to know how boring this manga was? Let me actually, like, show you how boring this manga was, okay? So, I've called the three of you here today for none other than a strategy meeting to devise a surprise welcome party for Katone. Wow! We'll carry out the plan next Friday, which is a holiday. Katone goes to the hospital on Friday, so she doesn't work those days. Now for food, Kaza, you're up. I was thinking we could have a barbecue on the terrace. We'll finally light up the grill for the very first time. Woo! Barbecue! Me. Yeah, Nibiru? There's a movie on at 9 that night, so how about we watch it in the theater room? Approved! I'll make popcorn. What's a movie? Seriously? This is gonna be awesome! Wall-E. We can play board games and card games, and I'd like to give her a present. Sounds great! You spend most of the time with her, so do you know what there's anything she would like specifically? Oh! No idea! Wait, seriously? You can't think of anything? Why'd you react like that then? But we've never talked about anything like that. No, you don't need to talk to her. Think about how she's been acting, and yes, you need to be more thoughtful. Otherwise, you'll never be popular. What? Wait, isn't this the sort of thing your mind-reading psych is for? It won't work unless Katone thinks of something she wants. Come on, what are you good for? Say that again. Gucci Koo! I'm sorry! Well, we still got a week left. We can try to figure this out together. I would keep reading, but this is exactly the last part where my friend went completely brain dead and needed to actually lay crash for the night, because this shit is that boring. Okay? It's like every chapter is this type of dialogue, and then just keeps going from there. It literally just keeps going. Literally, it just keeps going. And then like the rest of the chapter, they start making friendship beads. They literally just make friendship beads. And then that's it. Like the end of chapter. Like, I just want you all to appreciate, alright? I just want you all to appreciate, alright? That I was truly, like, actually, like, forcing myself, alright, to finish reading this because I made a commitment, alright, to finish reading this. I just need all of you to understand that. Okay? I swear to God, I was reading the comments saying that, like, man, Shonen Jump doesn't give anything a chance. Why did this get canceled so early? I was like, no. The fact that I reached 17 chapters was, like, a miracle, alright? I don't know how Shonen Jump was this, like, graceful, alright? This shit was so bad that I was actually, like, falling asleep, alright, in some cases reading it. Like, if your work is ever like this, I was showing these chapters to, like, this friend of mine that had no idea about, like, what the story was. And then, like, when I was, like, displaying the type of writing that happens, he was like, this is the most boring thing I have ever seen, unironically, alright? Like, listen. If you ever write anything, just always, like, check. Is it like this? Alright, if it isn't, it's at least probably more entertaining than this, alright? Like, I don't know what this was. But, like, ciao. Have a good day. Like and subscribe.